So, what do you think about this?
All right, welcome everybody. Well, 3 times the charm. Last night the Google Hangout landed off my main, but now it crashed for the second time. I think Michael Kriegsman still against me, saying that stability problems has happened before. So sorry if you were on the aborted Hangout before, then the machine completely froze up. So with no further ado, let's look at what we learned at Workday TechSummit this year. Let me share the story file with you, and here we go. Beautiful location, Cavallo Point on the other side of San Francisco. If you haven't been there, great place. This picture doesn't do it justice. This one maybe not either. As traditional, Stan Sweet opened the Tech Summit. The keen observer noticed he lost a bet, no mustache for the first time since many years, otherwise not noticed. Key takeaways from Stan's side was, which was news to the Workday Rising, 160 customers now in financials, 19 production, back then it was 80, so there's definitely some progress happening on the Workday side as far as the financials product is concerned. Also surprising, I might have missed it at Rising, Workday now is close to 5,000 employees, 4,900, almost there, larger than I would have pegged them right now, so it's a good news to know that. Highlight for Stan for 2015 was that the first Insights app was shipped. Workday strongly believes, as he does, that this will change the way how enterprise software is going to be built and going to be consumed. And as usual, Stan talks about how recruiting strategy, Workday technology framework, lots of new things have been built for that. It's always a typical example Workday executives use, how they keep evolving their technical platform. And then it was good to see a gentleman who usually is not on stage. I think it's the first time during my time as an analyst he was on stage. Petros Denetsis, who runs product development, had the chance to present to us. He literally said he was released from the dungeon, not my words, his words, so it was good to see that. We talked about the innovation and the different S-curves of innovation, how they happen, and then packed the whole thing to the evolution of enterprise applications, starting with transactions and over reporting and analysis and prediction and what if. We tried to predict or put Oracle and SAP, fellow competitors to Workday on there at some point. It's a little bit debatable what it is, and they're surprised that Workday is on the way on the right and the what if side. And then you take that to the human evolution all the way to the robotic man. It was always good to have some fun. And then we saw another gentleman which has come out, John Ruggiero, who's the not the original architect, but now the architect of the Workday architecture. And he had very interesting things to share. He made of the dungeon only this. The question is, does Workday need replatforming? And the Workday answer is no surprise. Workday has been replatforming. Literally, the quote was, no line of code is around still from the original Workday platform in the current product. Then talked about the integration and integrated capability design for change. One example is the acquisitions. We'll talk about this in a second of a more spreadsheets-based product. Like Kriegsman had a good tweet about software change evolution at Workday. And the key slide was all the way from the inventor of bookkeeping, Pacioli, to Gordon Moore, spanning that whole piece in one application. Getting the metadata, with a nice typo here, correct is the key thing to the approach. Workday built their own espresso architecture for that. That's the way how Workday has been able to stay up through different evolutions of their UI, going from the original presentation then over Adobe Flash all the way to HTML right now. This was the closest thing to architecture with the different layers, infrastructure, persistence, platform, technology, and on top of that, the applications for that. Interesting to see some insight on that part. Now over 70 services are in production on this architecture. We talked about the UI evolution already. Interesting also to see how the scale is increasing at Workday. 1 year later, all the numbers up in terms of utilization. Very good also for Workday to share what it means as a load. The peak on the left was an accident in one of the data centers or something went wrong in the data center there. The good news is that the yellow line is trending downwards to the right. So that's overall good to see that despite load being higher in the Workday architecture and platform, response times are getting better. And the secret sauce is basically in the pictograms on the top, where like the big left bottles, the object management system transactional system, which were two big binary analytic pieces, got broken up into more and more smaller pieces. The vision is for Workday to move all of this to a microservices architecture. And that is ready for doing different things on the persistent side, where Workday is using MySQL, is using Bashlo from React, or React's Bashlo database, Bashlo's React database, is using Hadoop, and of course everybody is using Spark these days to accelerate big data processes with memory. And it's ready for acquisitions, right? And the path of acquisition has sped up in 2015 with the acquisition of Gridcraft. We'll talk about this a little later, and MediaCore, which is the platform starting to power doing the heavy lifting around video for Workday's announced learning product. Little fun here. I take shoes with colorful shoes. The right one is mine. The left one is of the Grand Dame of the HCM industry now in bloom. And then we were off to David Clark talking about failover. His favorite thing. Lots of things that happened there. The interesting takeaway really here was that for the first time, Workday publicly shared their data center locations, which are in Portland, Auburn, and Virginia, Atlanta, in North America, and Dublin and Amsterdam in Europe. And Workday has formed the availability zone, something very similar to what Amazon is doing in a similar way. And then talking about Amazon, good to see that Workday wants both development and test applications on the Amazon infrastructure. And we talked about the availability zones already. Interesting thing also to put up a trust website like all SaaS vendors have, where you can see planned downtime of the application. There's something pretty standard in this area. It was interesting, there was a CIO attending, and he would not trust his data to Amazon. He's happy for it to be run by Workday, but he's happy also to use the cloud, having the advantage of not having to take care of servers, data centers, and so on. It's an interesting position. I think longer term, CIOs will also realize when their software vendor, in this example Workday, has to shoulder that cost. It doesn't help them on the investment capex side either. So I think that attitude is going to change very, very quickly. And then the first move on stage, it was great to hear from Aaron Young about what's happening on the insights architecture, more of an architecture here, using the usual suspects. Simon is the Workday specific ontology acquired from Identified early of 2014. So that's the unique thing here. And then the interesting thing is how reporting is going to be enriched with third-party data. Also interesting, putting, no surprise, a Spark layer on top of HDFS, and then putting again the object management system on top of that to get reports going and running. My concern here is, like all enterprise software vendors, not specific to Workday, they always like to say, oh, there's little information which we need for additionally for unstructured data. So the perspective is always sitting on the transactional data. I think it's important generally to see the transactional data is only a rounding error if you look at big data projects. So that's an important perspective to get right. And then we were on to NWAO 2. Very interesting. Workday is paying attention to life cycle cost of customers. Here was one of the usage scenarios which is looking into about running things here and reducing cost of ownership with better improved life cycle management. Always a good thing to do that. Loved it that he didn't call the buzzword DevOps. Good job there. It's all about life cycle management. And now it will be interesting to see if there will be some self-service ad server or something, which now we would call territory configuration, allowing system administrators or even users to do self-service ad server. And then we spoke to a reference, was a CIO from a large asset management or real estate management company, one of the names. That was good to see former colleague Jim Hollencheck on stage talking about the product management side and the lifecycle management pieces, which should be coming out at some point in the future. And then it was spreadsheet time, talking to the Gridcraft acquisition gentleman, Josh and Work, and so I forgot the name of the other gentleman. They talk very well about the issues with existing spreadsheets using Excel mostly, not until not live, how to improve that, to make it part of the system of record, improve the collaboration pieces, and provide still native spreadsheet capabilities is really what Workday is trying to do with Gridcrafts and worksheets now. Generally, I think, in my view, a good way to do this. benefits are it's integrated in the platform, and you can do better spreadsheet work. If you call them new, it's a different story, but we do that. This is how it looks. Pretty clean forward, very powerful Excel client actually. Good to see it in live there. My overall concern is that enterprise vendors have always tried to replace Excel, have so far always failed. But we'll be interested to see if this approach now will be making progress. So far, it's only going to be one way out of Workday into, well, it stays inside the Workday, but inside the spreadsheet. It will be interesting if Workday can sort out the full loop of putting data back. And then, of course, these have all the enterprise features like an auditor. And then one of the highlights always, John Colby with the UI guru, with a good analogy here of the wrong tool being used and even dangerous to use the wrong tools. Here, an old lady is using a bread or meat cutter to open her medicine because unfortunately her hands seem to be too fragile to open it. And we had a little design lesson session with, sorry about this, Penny, I forgot your last name, but UX Penny is of course a great Twitter handle, so follow her for some insights in that. And then Joe did the interactive thing, talking about everything that he was working on, and we could vote ourselves what we'd like to see. Interesting enough, we got presentation service, which is one of the major UI innovations on the Workday side, basically creating a user interface to define not solely in a visual format, but build your own screens. But also, even more importantly, used in the Workday ADP partnership around showing a RESTful API the necessary fields in the Workday UI to run ADP payroll, something we talked about last week. And that was great. Workday gave us hands-on time to play with the iPad application. Here's a screenshot of the famous rounding org chart with going hierarchy. So always great to have a hands-on conversation with us. And then it was apps time with the three ladies, Leanne Levensala, Amy Willis, Betsy Bland, and Barry McCann. Interesting slide showing all the work they use and all the major pieces in one slide. Very good to see that. In general, what are the investments in on the HR side? It's insights, experience, and global. On the finance side, the focus really is on customer momentum. We talked about this before. Now 160 customers using core financials, 90 live, that's how fast it went earlier. 80. Some contribution numbers, but definitely go in the right direction here, largest being Aon, Unum, and so on. You can read it on the slide yourself. Key for Workday to really address this to get more critical footprint and better return of R&D investment here. More industry support. What I like is Workday is always doing massive videos. For instance, adding grant management. There's going to be videos not only for higher education, but also for government and non-profit organizations. And major push on the finance side is going more global, adding more countries recently in the W25, the top 25 countries there, adding lots of interesting finance information, and then moving more from reporting into insights. No surprise, it's going to be a major push for 2016. And last but not least, planning, adding to the finance scenario, both a budget generator and then collaborative planning and monitoring, powered by the grid curve collaborative worksheets. Then we were off to human capital management with Amy Willis. Interesting here, new retention risk recommendations built on top of the insight applications already available. Package scorecards was another piece of announcements for 2015 that Workday has delivered. One of the three of them mentioned there. Recruitment was a major focus, plus 100 enhancements on recruiting. No surprise. It's a new module on the Workday side, so it needs some attention and additional functionality. One of the announcements coming is around engagement. The Workday will use campaign functionality, create surveys, use content management to recommendations to get better engagement of employees. And always reuse. Global alignment is a major theme for 2016. Also no surprise given the investment that Workday is making going abroad beyond North America. And no surprise, my observation here, the investment teams are very similar around global transfer of people. Basically, the big three and HCM compete with the same vendors. Only one of them can win. The requirements of customers here in this example on globalization don't change, so no surprise, they're all building more or less the same. And then we were off to the payroll time side with Barry McCann. No surprise, strong customer momentum there. quoting on the Olympic motto of Altus Quitus Fortius. Cloud Connect for Payroll is a major enhancement. Workday has to interface with effective dating system, aka SAP. Doing something here on the payroll effective change interface has reduced the efforts considerably, as Workday is saying, to go there. Time tracking with new time entry types and better support for high volume time entry is on the roadmap for 2016. And yeah, we saw confirmation the French payroll will be coming in 2016. And last week, one of the highlights was the REST-based interface with ADP as an announcement. Then we had done a bush for closing remarks. Interesting enough, here using some of Dennis Howell's Bridge Suite, Emily said he feels it's the golden age of Workday. Good to hear that everything's going well. The question is what's coming after the golden age, but every analogy has its challenges here. Key priorities for him, using my opportunity to maintaining great culture and maintaining high levels of customer satisfaction. Workday is on super high customer satisfaction. That's definitely going to be a high bar to repeat and keep. Ask him, gave kudos to him for saying the menus are not different. They just want more feedback, interaction. Glad to hear an enterprise software CEO acknowledging they are not really that different publicly. If he had a wish free, right, a popular question these days, he would like to see more mobile adoption of customers. Interesting point. In my view, it's the vendors who hopefully get it right. The customers are using mobile, smartphones, tablets, and so on already. As consumers, it's the enterprise software vendors who get it right to get it there. Never say never. Ask about other areas where they might invest. Emil said patient system, mentioning Cerner and Epic as examples where there's opportunity. These systems are older. We never said never to SCM either. So it will be interesting how Workday will expand its portfolio going forward in the second half of the 2010s. And then ask Anil if 2016 will be more than 2015 with more acquisitions and major partnerships like ADP. And yeah, small acquisitions will be there and large partnerships can always happen. So a diplomatic answer from Anil, no surprise. Last question I asked there is last year asked, will Workday ever go into PaaS market, standalone markets? Last year Anil's answer was really PaaS with a little p, meaning extension p, and he basically confirmed that Workday is not closing the door on that perspective. Yeah, last but not least, check out our post on the ADP and Workday partnership announced last week at Workday Rising, which comes leads to the takeaways of this. And sorry if I'm talking really fast. If Bill and Bob are listening to this, I'm not initiating and not sleeping well because my flight is boarding now. So what are the takeaways? It's always tough to find the top key takeaways from such a full event, but definitely learning more about the inside apps architecture was very useful. Understanding where the Workday data centers are and how that infrastructure is set up. Understanding the two availability zones, very interesting. And the presentation service, having a declarative, RESTful way of exposing further content inside of the Workday UI is something which I think we'll see more partnerships leveraging using this. And the tip side was great to play with the product. I mentioned that before. I can only recommend it to other vendors. A very different experience for analysts overall. Everybody had some takeaways from that. It's good to see that Workday is dedicated to reducing total cost of ownership and life cycle. The number of things coming in 2016 there. And it's good to see that Workday has addressed one of their weakest areas, which is international payroll support, the partnership with ADP. On the concern side, I mean, Workday is growing, but it's still a proprietary architecture and platform that it's running on. It's very encouraging to see that developing test systems are running on AWS, but at the same time, Workday has to do a lot of things around big data and wanting to build themselves, which they could get for free. Would they make a decision for free? Not, but being built by AWS, which they could get from a platform vendor standardizing on a public cloud there. And AWS is still one of the three areas to look at from that perspective. But otherwise, good insights, always peeling a little more onions off the Workday architecture, which is a long-term multi-year process by now. It's good to understand it better and help customers and prospects to know what Workday is really doing. So thanks for watching. I need to run to my gate. Really appreciate it. Sorry for the high word count. Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye-bye.